Ain't no hashtag on Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody who has been rocking with us tonight. We appreciate you guys who have been hanging in there with us. We had a couple of comments that we got from the last segment. We were talking about the healthy segment with the heart disease. My cousin Tiffany is sending condolences to my loss, my friend that passed away. We also got a hit from our brother D. D. Holmes said he just got on, and he came in on the part where we said don't smoke. He smokes about 5 cigars a week. Literally right now, he's sitting there with a cigar, bourbon, and a glass of red wine after he just ate a bacon cheeseburger.
See,
he got to let his food be his medicine before his medicine becomes his food. Wow. So,
see, I was talking to you.
You was talking.
I was certainly talking to you.
Michelle K says she went to the doctor last Friday. She's healthy and the blood work was good. So she's
fantastic.
Coach Reggie Ship is saying peace to the crew. So. Those are the comments from the last segment, and thank you to my brother D. Holmes and my brother Coach Ship and Michelle K. and our sister Lady Z checked in that segment as well. So shout out to all of them for checking in. Ain't no hashtag on Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Time to introduce a new participant to the discussion, and this man needs no introduction. So I ain't going to give him one. Just grab the mic. Let me stop. Of course, he's our brother. Right. He's our brother. And what I like to call the spiritual piece of Legacy in that radio. He's our spiritual.
The Jerobi.
He's the Jerobi, our brother and yours, Comic J Grizzly. What up, bro?
What up, bro? What's up, everybody? What's good?
What up?
How you doing today, man?
Been working, man. Right. I did some back-breaking work today on top of the 9 to 5. So
did you?
Look at my hands, man. I don't do that slave work. I don't do none of that. I look pretty.
He has nice smooth hands.
So you earned your keep today.
Yeah, I earned my keep today. But I'm glad to be here. Appreciate y'all having me. It's always fun coming back to Ain't No Half Stepper.
Well, we appreciate you. We're gonna throw you right into the fire. All right. And ladies, we're gonna, of course, incorporate the four of us into the discussion along with the folks on Facebook Live, as well as anybody who wants to jump in to the discussion on the phone lines, 804-402-2893. Lady Z is saying peace to the crew, and she said show him. So I guess she wanted me to adjust the camera angle. So
who checking for me, boo? Hold on. who is checking for me? Hold on. The lighting is a little off, but I'm pretty, babe.
Lord.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
I don't think she meant it that way, but okay.
He said I'm pretty.
The older I get, the more I need that confidence. I feel like my looks be leaving me. So, I see how sugar daddies do now when they go out and buy them off. That's me. I'm going to be that guy. I got to be dressed up because you got to overcompensate for the baldness, for the, pot
But
belly.
y'all, he dressed with some swag.
Yeah, I got swag, but I'm telling you why I'm doing it for you run into me in the street.
You already know what it is.
You already know what it is. So if you see me, I'm going to look dapper.
I like you when you wear your hats.
Oh, yeah, the fedoras. Mm-hmm. But the fedoras, somebody told me that if I wear too many fedoras, like kind of fugazi, because it's like, I'm like, I don't know. I just like it.
Nah.
And then guess what? It's real funny. I got to get back on it. I saw a picture of my granddad, great-granddad, and my granddad. They all, tales from my mom and my grandma. They all wore fedoras and pictures of them, and they say I look alike.
Hats,
so
man.
it's in the genes.
It's
hey,
boo. I can dig it. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Now, this piece of the show, I want to spend some time talking about the teacher, Dick Gregory, who we lost over the weekend. We'll have some reflections. Folks can share any thoughts they may have had about the brother. Jay, I know as a comic, I know that this was somebody who you spent some time studying, or at least going through some of his material, because I know you're a student of the game. So let's get a little bit of your thoughts on Dick Gregory. Start it off for us.
Well, first of all, rest in paradise, Dick Gregory, a pioneer of all pioneers. To be, strangely enough, Marcus, I didn't come across the comedian part of Dick Gregory until later on, because we generate. What's our generation called?
We're Generation X.
Generation
SY
X
is a baby boomer.
Yeah. So my generation, like the civil rights generation, then Gen X. So like I came on like a lot later, and how I know Dick Gregory is by the diets. Because I forgot, I think it was Robin Harris that made
the Bohemian Diet.
Yeah, Robin Harris.
My mama had that joke.
Yeah, was making jokes about that.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, who the hell is Dick Gregory? People making jokes about the diet. And then I came across as him being a social activist, civil activist, human rights activist. I came across him in that way. And then I started, digging deeper into who is this brilliant black man. And then I stumbled across a documentary where he was one of the first comics, black or white, to open up the Playboy clubs back in the day.
In the 60s, right?
In the 60s. And I'm thinking like a black man get to go up in a room full of half-naked white women to tell jokes and drink that's bold. Like to do that.
Real talk. All jokes aside.
Yeah, that's because as a comedian, it's bad enough that you got to kind of, you want to win the crowd over and be likable and be funny. But then to do it at a time where it was probably no problem to hit an N-word, thrown at you while you was on stage at any given time. So that told me a lot about the man. Like, and then for him to almost, I won't say Muhammad Ali himself out of comedy, but to just say, you know what, there's a bigger purpose for me on this plane, and comedy is just a vehicle. Like a lot of people, I admire folks who have a talent, but then take that talent and use it as a vehicle to give something to the world, to espouse, give some knowledge to the world. And don't get it twisted, people checking out on Facebook and listeners, like, yes, he was a pro-black man, but he was really speaking about human rights. Like I remember seeing Dick Gregory in a march. I want to say it might have been somewhere on the East Coast, or it might have been in Europe, but he was marching for like poor Irish kids or something like that. I'm like, this the same brother that's like kill Whitey, but he's over there like marching for like the potato famine Irish. Like I'm like, that just boggled my mind. So, it was definitely when the news came across social media, and I want to say it was Saturday night, like it was just like, wow. I mean, I knew he was he was 84, and I knew there was news that his health was he was in the hospital, but sometimes you just don't expect those bearers of light to be shut off like that, because he was grinding. Matter of fact, I think he was booked here to do a show, and I want to say it was this month. If it wasn't this month, it was next month.
He did have some shows lined up.
He's gonna be at the Funny Bone.
Yeah, this man was booking shows at 84 years old, crisscrossing the I'm out of breath just driving from one part of town to here, and I'm half his age. So, that's amazing. If God blessed me with 84 years of life. Second, if he blessed me with the energy at 84 to go at life and to go at the things that, especially now at the times that we live in, the children the youth that's underneath me that need to hear those words by Dick Gregory, and they need leadership. Like this millennial generation, although we got our movements, but just the other day, and I don't want to get off tangent, but just yesterday in Richmond, Virginia, 2 shootings within a half a block of each other in the East End. Like, if this doesn't, if the situation of the world and in the country itself don't make you take an account for yourself and for your actions, especially parents, because at the end of the day, it's about self-responsibility, self-reliance, and everybody got bad situations. I grew up poor. I grew up in the projects. But guess what? I had to get in them books. I had the World Book encyclopedias. I was reading books with no pictures in it. I had to there was a spark. So Dick Gregory was a spark. Dick Gregory, watching him, got me on to Dr. John Henry Clark.
Yeah.
Got me on to license papers later.
Oh, Francis Cress Weldon.
Yeah, the technology helps, you know, because you have access to all of that information. But then when I was paying attention to sampling, like they were sampling, Public Enemy was sampling Dick Gregory's voice in songs. Like this man was, I mean, it's sad to say that we have to look back after somebody passed to see exactly what they was bringing to the table. Well, he brought a lot and then some to the table, and he left a lot for us to chew on and to look at within ourselves and through the mirror with others. So that's my thoughts on it. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss seeing every once in a while a news article or him online or something about Dick Gregory going off, because you know how Dick Gregory do. He would go off, and he wasn't pulling no punches, and I respected him for that. At the end of the day, that was a man. He stood on his own too. When God called him home, he went down still on the books as far as, you know, putting in that work. So much respect to him and condolences to his family.
804-402-2893. Lady Z says great loss. Hakeem is checking in.
Hey, baby.
He's been in for a little while, but he's checking in now. He
says, like that?
He said,
I ain't flirting.
He said,
"Oh, she ain't flirting. She giving it to you."
He said, "What up, MJ and the crew? 502 baby all day, every day." That's a shout out to our brother K-Dub. 804-402-2893. Big sis.
You know, Grizzy, when you were saying, you know, he fights for a lot of causes, and he did some of his fighting, y'all, with his health. You know, when you know your health isn't good and you stop eating because you want to bring a point. You know, he did this with, I think, when they started accusing Michael Jackson, I believe, one time.
Yeah, he was out there for Mike.
I mean, think about the point that he was trying to make. Everybody tried to make their point. Everybody made their stand one way or the other, but he was like, I don't care.
He had a way of getting the point.
He put his health on the line
over,
to make y'all realize some stuff. Stuff that's not even our fight, that wasn't right. He put his own self on the line. You just can't. I don't know.
He was the grandparent that when your mother say, your mother and daddy say, don't give him no whooping. He was the grandparent that said, shh, I'm gonna get that baby. Somebody getting their ass whooped.
Yep.
You know, it's just
because that'll straighten
them out. You know, I want to say it was from St. Louis, right? Mark,
I think
born in St. Louis.
He's from the Midwest.
Midwest,
I'm not sure
like
I think it is.
his ups.
I can look it up.
You know, enough respect to the people that raised that man. He had some good values, some good down home values, and you could tell just by the way he spoke, he gave his lectures, the information he was giving. Like, one of the things that I always find that I think is important in leaders is, there you go, St. Louis. Okay, there we go. Okay. So one of the things I think is important in leaders is that you lead by example. You don't have to brag. You know, that's on anything. Like your actions is gonna speak in and of itself. And just on the comedy game, like I'm thinking Dick Gregory is probably 15, 20 years in the comedy game before he started his social activism. And I want to say late 50s probably to the late 60s, early 70s probably. But that comedy game was tight and it stood the test of time. I mean, I remember seeing him in a black and white video smoking with a whole bunch of white snow bunnies telling jokes, and you know, it was a scene out of Mad Men. It was just this one black man, you know, and I'm like, well, I figured my first instinct was he's a sellout. Like how you get that as a comedian in the entertainment business? Like how you get that hookup? Like you had to link up with somebody to get put on to an important gig like that, because at the time Playboy was trying to expand their Playboy bunny clubs throughout the country, but after he got up the comedy game and I heard how he was speaking about, you know, the injustices, especially with black people in America, he was just like, yo, sometimes you have to go into the belly of the beast to kind of educate the dummies, like to get them to wake up. And I saw an important, you know, quote, no, it's not a quote, but an important statement. And it's on social media, and not everything on social media is fake news, but I said that, and it made me harken back to a show we was here at Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J, and I said this: the conversation about race does not have to take place between black people and white people. The conversation about race is all a white people conversation. We already know about race. We done suffered 400 and some years of it. We know what it is about race, but that conversation has to take place between the evil and the good of white folk, and until that happens, the cycle will continue. So I'm sorry, y'all got me talking.
I'm glad you made that point, because it's a point that, I inarticulately have tried to make, and the way you laid it out just now was about as make it plain as it gets. I mean, we already know what it is. I think that one of the points that I've always made is that white folks, quite frankly, are the default. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a computer and you erase your computer and you press the default button, it goes back to that. Like, that's what white folks are.
You.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like, you're the default. Now, don't get in your feelings about that. Just understand what you are. You are the default. The America that we know was written for and by white people. And those of us who are here who are not have had to learn how to assimilate. And when we don't, we either get disgraced, we get killed, or some other kind of way we get dealt with. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the reality. And there's some white folk who don't toe the line the way that the establishment wants you to, and the same thing happens to them as well. And so the point that you were making, and the point that, again, I'm stumbling through, is that as the default, the overwhelming responsibility, as far as I see it, for the discussion on race in this country needs to be had with the people who are controlling the narrative.
Exactly.
And if you don't think that that's the problem, if you don't think that that's the solution to the problem, then you might be the problem. Now, that does not mean that we as black people sit on our hands and do nothing.
That's right.
That's not what that means. That's not what Dick Gregory did.
Exactly.
And that's not what Martin Luther King did. And that's not what Malcolm X did. And that's not what Barack Obama did. We all watched these men and others ascend out of their personal situations to become leaders, to become borderline deities in our country, off of their moral compass that told them, this is what I need to do.
This is just the right and wrong.
This is the right thing for me to do. This is what I need to do. And I think that's an example. None of them are perfect, but I think that's an example that we all would be wise to follow.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that you said.
Oh, thank you, baby.
King, you was giving it up.
Right.
Yeah. Grizz about that life.
For one time tonight, I ain't cracking 2 minute
And
joke.
y'all, he is fine. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm happily married, but he's fine. He's a fine king.
Me too, but we can all flirt, baby. We can all flirt. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
He all blushing now, y'all.
That's something.
He about to be dark skinned.
Stop it.
After 15 years, that's all I do is flirt. That's make my day. That make my month. I can flirt with women. My God, it's beautiful.
Keep flirting.
Thank you. Go ahead, sister.
So I think the only thing that I would add to what's already been said, because some powerful jewels have been dropped in here tonight. For me, growing up in Philly and watching Dick Gregory hang out in Philly like a lot, is the fact that he exemplified the power of transition from one phase of life to another. He just kept transitioning, and his feet never got cemented anywhere. And so that's why he could take up a cause for African Americans and then go halfway around the world and take up the same cause, because his message was the same.
That's right.
And he didn't let anybody confine him to anything. He was a free thinker. And because he was so trusted, people gave him truth when it was never acceptable in other places. Like other black people or other black leaders, we have some that we think should have been in the know. And yet somehow, I mean, if you watch the last 2 years of Dick Gregory on YouTube, you want to know, well, who's talking to him? Like, why does he know all of this? And I mean, this man, I mean, I'm not a baby boomer, but I'm old enough to remember. I love you, babe. I'm old enough to remember hearing the stories of when Dick Gregory ran for president.
Right.
So I
On the
kinda,
dollar bill
I was starting
joint.
to hear about him.
Did he run for mayor too? I
the
think.
Dick
Mayor of
Gregory
Chicago.
died.
Yep.
He ran for
did run for
president, and
president.
then they tried to say he stole 9 million votes. I mean, it was just always this mess. But somehow or another, regardless of what people thought at the time, 9 million people probably did vote for him.
Yeah.
Just because of his popularity
message.
around the country,
Right.
9
On the
million
ballot,
people
I would've
probably
voted
did.
for him.
And yet, that's not taught.
Right.
We present the first candidate to run as Jesse Jackson or whomever, and for the kids that's coming up now, all they know about is President Obama.
Yeah.
But Dick Gregory really was laying that foundation all the way back then.
Word
Whether it
up.
was comedy or social activism or making us more conscious about what we put in our bodies or making us more conscious about systemic things that affect us all. He just kept transitioning
Right.
and kept transitioning. And so go back and look at all of that YouTube
That's
stuff.
strength
You know
right
what's
there.
great?
There's some power in there.
The thing about Dick that I always liked was the fact that, I guess as a young person, the earliest memory that I have of Dick Gregory is the Bohemian Diet.
Yeah.
Just follow me for a second, folks, because we all of a certain age can remember that. All of us. And no shade, seriously. We all could remember that. Now, there's folks younger than us, who have no idea what that is. Like, when you watch certain movies, and movies will drop, like, social commentary jewels in it. Like, when we watched House Party, when the dude said, go in there and give me some of that Dick Gregory. You know what I mean? So now, if you are a young person, the movie came out in 1990. So if you watch, if a young person, you watch it now, you probably don't get it. You might have laughed because you felt like you should
'Cause
laugh.
it's funny, you wanna laugh.
But we remember that
Pops.
because we had like that
We knew Dick
nasty
That
ass powder
powder.
in our house.
in our house. Like, we had it. And
He was the Uncle Ben of shakes.
for the younger folks today. Think about, I was getting ready to say Tybo videos. Y'all probably don't remember that either. But just think of some sort of Nutriment or some kind of quickie diet that they have now. It was like that. Like, so
like the
so
Slim
for
Fast.
me, I grew up kind of a bookworm, similar to Grizz. I literally, no exaggeration, would read the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Like, I would read the encyclopedia. I would pick one a day, and then I would pull it. Today I pulled out the F, and then I would just thumb through F and just read stuff.
Right.
Tomorrow I pull out P, and the next thing you know, I'm reading those. And so that's kind of what I did. That's how I entertained myself. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older that Dick Gregory, on a grander scale, beyond just the powder, came upon my radar. I'm reading the dictionary and the encyclopedia and all of that stuff. I had heard of him, but I didn't really know him. It wasn't until I got to college. I got to college, and I was just reading stuff. I hated reading school, but I did like to read stuff. And I stumbled upon his autobiography, simply
Word.
N-word. I don't use that word, but N-word. That was the name of his autobiography. And I'm reading this book, y'all, and I think it's like, it might be 2 or 3 books in my life that I've read more than once.
You read.
You know what I mean? It's not a lot. I read Roots like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
It was 800 pages. I just kept reading it. And this book, N-word, the autobiography of Dick Gregory, a word that he's very comfortable with, and he was very unhappy with people like me who decided to get rid of the word.
Try to get rid of it.
But he said that he was called that so much that he thought it was his name. Let me get this comment in from my brother Tim Man right quick before I finish. Tim Man, what's up, brother? Dick Gregory was great because he didn't just tell you what he thought you wanted to hear. He provided an example and helped you understand what he was saying. Perfect, because he spoke to you in plain language.
Plain language.
I got a
Our
Dick Gregory story. Before I tell my Dick Gregory story, I'll tell a story of a lady who I heard on the radio this morning tell her Dick Gregory story. I was listening to one of the shows that I like to listen to every day, and the host had people calling in. There was one lady who called in. Everybody was calling in. This is my Dick Gregory. I met Dick Gregory. This is what happened. This lady's just like, yeah, I was walking through, that supermarket whose name we don't shout out on the show because we ain't fooling with them because of the N-word wig that they had on their website. That store. So she's walking through that store, and she sees Dick Gregory. So she starts kicking it with him and stuff, and you know, he was nice. They exchanged pleasantries, and everything was cool. So she goes to her husband, and she's like, "Yo, I just ran into Dick Gregory right there in the store,
chilling."
And her husband was like, "Man, you tripping?
You was posted up.
Yeah, you tripping? Yeah, you tripping." So as they're leaving, Dick Gregory comes up to her and says, "Can you give me a ride up the street?"
Real talk, yo.
to my hotel or wherever he was going. And she, of course, she could say no to Dick Gregory.
Nah.
Yeah, so she took him. And when he gets in the car, of course, her husband's got the look on his face like,
yo, you just gotta know.
are you serious? And whatnot. So there were several stories like that about how affable he was and how pleasant he was to deal with. But there were equal amount of stories of don't bother him when he trying to eat. You know, or, you know, times like that. So anyway, here's my Dick Gregory story. It was last summer when we had the Juneteenth celebration here in Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that Dick Gregory was going to be the keynote speaker, I was like, well, word, I got to go.
Got to be there.
Got to be there. You know, and I hadn't, you know, met him or anything before. I just, you know, like you said, sister, you know, YouTube and all of that kind of stuff. And then I would hear him, you know, on the various radio shows. I would hear him on Warren Ballantyne's show all the time. And I would hear him on Joe Madison's show all the time. And sometimes on Al Sharpton's show. He made the rounds. So you would hear him. You would hear from him. So anyway, I get there, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to see this dude. And you could just sense how the crowd was getting a little bit, you know, rambunctious, antsy.
Yeah.
Come to find out, he was a little bit late. So we're going to talk to Micah Bam Bam White here in just a few minutes, and he'll tell his version of the story because he's part of the story. But as I'm milling around a little bit, restless, waiting. You know, I look up and I'm standing like maybe 10 feet from Dick Gregory. He's right there. So he had slipped in. And the thing that struck me was he had no crew, he had no entourage, and nothing. He was just there. He was chilling. So anyway, he gets to the stage and he does his thing. He's speaking very freely, you know, very freely.
He 83, so
yeah, he's speaking very freely.
Give you that work.
Complete with, you know, all the language that comes with speaking to your peoples.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that struck me, and you mentioned it earlier, Grizz, and I wanted to wait until now for me personally to speak on this, but the energy that this man had at 82 or 83, whatever he was at the time, was noticeable.
Phenomenal.
It was noticeable. He spoke for so long they had to pull him off the stage. True story, not an exaggeration.
Wow.
They had to take the mic from him. You know, respectfully, but they had to take the mic from him.
That mic,
Not only
That's probably part of his passion.
Not only was he walking up and down, he was walking in the crowd. He was talking to people as he was giving his oratory. It was amazing. When it was over, and this is when this picture that you see me in of him was taken. When it was over, anybody who wanted to talk to him, he gave him time. Anybody who wanted to talk to him. I stood in line, I don't know how long it was, 10, 15, 20.
I can't talk to my own flesh and blood for 30 seconds.
However long it was. And when it was my turn, I shook his hand, gave him a firm handshake. I told him, I said, look, man, I've idolized you for my entire life. I said, I want to thank you for being who you are, and thank you, you know, I'm paraphrasing, I said something along these lines. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for doing what you do. You know, he thanked me for coming. He looked at my shirt. I had a Legacy Internet Radio shirt on at the time. I told him what Legacy Internet Radio was and how I built it and how, you know, I built it with the community of friends and family that we have and how it's grassroots and how, like him, we want to educate the people.
Our peoples.
You know, and he seemed to be pleased by that. He was a bit distracted because there was a lot going on, but he was still engaged in the conversation.
He was with it.
And I shook his hand one more time. I thanked him for talking to me, and then I went about my way. And that
cool ass Mark.
And that was the end of it. But I just came away with so much pride in that moment because here was this man, and if you know me, you know who my Mount Rushmore of
Marcus Garvey,
spiritual people. Well, Marcus Garvey obviously is my namesake. But I'm speaking specifically of people who have also shaken the hand of Dick Gregory, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Bob Marley. If you know me, those are my three. they all shook this man's hand. I got to shake his hand.
There you go.
You know, and so that touched me so deep in my spirit, and I never, ever, ever forgot it. And you just don't think that people are going to die. You mean, intellectually, you know they will.
Yeah.
You know they will. But after spending 2 hours or whatever it was in that room, watching this, come on, man, he ain't going nowhere.
Right. His
And
spirit
to
is like
find
good
out-
cooked food, boy.
And then I'll make this last point, and I'll get the mic back up to someone else. But this last point, the reason why we lost Dick, the way we lost Dick, was because his body had become damaged because of years of fasting for all of the causes that he was fasting for. The infection that he got was an infection that any of us may have been able to fight off because our bodies
The
were
system
not
was shut
weakened
down.
because of it. And this isn't something I made up. This is what his
No,
son
it's
Christian,
true.
his son Christian announced this in the announcement of his passing. So not only did Dick Gregory live for us, but Dick Gregory,
sacrificed.
He died for
he
you.
died for us
He
too.
sacrificed.
He sacrificed what may have been 84 more years for us. Ain't no half stepping
Word.
with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. I don't even know if we can top that. So
I'm going to roll one up for Dick Gregory tonight, baby.
that's right. Yeah, legal tobacco because we are still in Virginia. Yes, sir.
They coming. Yeah, you're right about that. My bad.
All I can say is
Yeah.
heart disease.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's good for glaucoma. Ain't no half stepping with
Exactly.
Marcus J.
Oh, so you
Live
can see
from the
yourself
Den.
have the heart attack.
Legacy Internet Radio. We're going to take a break. Remember, we do have a huge announcement that we will be making, so stay with us tonight. We'll be making that announcement, letting you know something big that we got going on,
excuse me,
which
Mark.
will affect the future
Excuse me.
of
Can-
us here at Legacy
No,
Internet
I got to
Radio.
speak to the Facebook Live real quick. Excuse me.
I've been summoned to move away from the camera as I was
This
taking us
is
to a
this is
close.
Jay Grizzly. I got a question, and I'm asking.
Is it serious as cancer?
No, I don't. Yeah, no, not that
Oh,
serious.
my.
But
It's
if
Rakim, man. It's Rakim.
if anybody has the pick 3 tonight, please text in the pick 4. I need that. Just put me on to a number.
396. Don't say I didn't
you-
give you a
And I
number.
asked you. I asked Facebook
I wasn't
Live.
talking to you.
I interrupted you for the pick
so
3.
you stopped me for the pick 3?
Yeah, for the
396,
pick
y'all.
3, pick
Send them
4.
to give
That's
you
that's
numbers.
all I'm
I'll
asking
tell you,
for.
it had to
I'm
be-
gonna hit you off with $20 if we had.
ain't no ass that with Marcus J. Like
You
I said,
better win 50.
We got a huge announcement that we will be making before the end of the show tonight. Michelle K is validating your lunacy by LOLing your ass.
Give me that pick 3 then if you think it's
but
funny.
we will take we're gonna take this break, and when we come back, we're gonna have a sit down conversation with comic Micah Bam Bam White, who I was with the night that we both met Dick Gregory. So we'll have some reflections from him. He's also a comic, been in the game for a long time. Looking forward to having a conversation with him. And then later on, we'll rant, we'll close. Piece of history tonight. You guys are going to enjoy that. Everybody was so hyped up because of the eclipse today. But August 21st is also a day in history that we should not forget. Marcus J. and the crew and you be back in a few.
What's up, y'all? This is your man K-Dub, and when I'm down on 285 down in Atlanta, GA, maybe on I-64 in Newport News, Virginia, or maybe I'm in Jersey City catching that light rail headed downtown to go into NYC, I'm always plugged in to Legacy Internet Radio, listening to Ain't No Half Stepping with my man Marcus J. Check it out, y'all. Peace.